Is that we're not getting healthier. Why is that?
Why is that?
Harming patients by the hundreds in order to bilk the healthcare system out of millions.
Since pleading guilty earlier this year, Courtney has told investigators he tampered with far more of the drugs he sold than first suspected. And all, he has admitted, for the money, charging full price for watered-down doses.
Hey guys, it's me, Comrade Lavender here. Today I'm going to be doing a true crime case. I haven't done this in quite some time. I want to do the true crime case of Robert Courtney, a evil big pharma pharmacist. Waters down drugs for capitalism profits for himself. Profits over lives every day under the system that is capitalism. A deep dive story into this. A true crime story. So before we get started into this true crime story, and all the events that happened, all my YouTube videos related to this will be on the screen right now if you'd like to check them out or you wish to check them out. So let's get started into this video. So yeah, the true crime story. So this true crime story has been featured in a number of media and TV. This true crime case was featured in Oxygen's true crime documentary show called A License to Kill. Robert Courtney was featured in this. It was also featured in a 2008 in an episode of American Greed entitled Deadly for Greed. It also is featured in Diluted Trust, Robert Courtney, a TV episode in 2008 as well. So a short background of this evil man I'm going to be talking about. Robert Courtney was born in Hays, Kansas. His father was a traveling minister based in Scott City. He played the trombone at Wichita High School. Courtney graduated from School of Pharmacy at University of Missouri, Kansas City in 1975. Courtney served as a deacon at Northernland Cathedral and Assemblies of God megachurch in Kansas City as well. In 1986, Courtney became the owner of Research Medical Tower Pharmacy in Kansas City, where he had worked for some time. He primarily mixed intravenous drugs in his pharmacy, and in 1992, he and his first wife divorced. Courtney retained custody of their 2 daughters. His second marriage and second wife lasted 4 or 5 days and was later annulled. And last but not least, in 1994, his third wife, Laura Courtney, gave birth to twins. So on to the events that played at hand when it comes to this crime case leading up to the events that happened. In 1990, Robert began purchasing pharmaceuticals on the gray market and using them to fill prescriptions at his pharmacy. In the time, he began diluting prescriptions to increase profits. Starting from basically day one, he started doing this to make money for himself and make capitalism profits. This is typical big pharma, putting profits over lives, typical capitalism, healthcare under capitalism. And in 1998, Ely Lilly sales representative Daryl Ashley noticed Courtney was selling 3 times the amount that he'd bought of the cancer drug Gamzer. Ely Lilly initially ignited an internal investigation but found no evidence of illegally and closed the investigation without further action. And in early 2001, several nurses and the office doctor of Verda Hunter, now Hicks, Dr. Hicks, an archaeologist in Courtney's building, the same building, noticed that several Hunter's patients weren't experiencing the debilitating side effects that are normally seen in cases with people going through chemotherapy treatments, like their hair falling out or flu-like sicknesses. That wasn't happening. They still had like a full head of hair, etc. They voiced their concerns to Ashley, who wondered if Hunter's patients were actually getting the full prescribed dose of chemotherapy. When she reviewed the utilization records, she discovered the same problem that he'd been seen in 1998. Courtney appeared to be selling Gamzer for $20 per vial, less than what the drug was worth at the market, appearing to take a substantial loss. Combined with the lack of side effects, it led Ashley to suspect that Courtney might be diluting the drugs with water. Hunter also noticed that many of her patients were only suffering mild side effects of the chemotherapy they were being given. Their condition didn't seem to be improving at all, and it seemed to be getting worse as some patients, the cancer had spread even more, and at this point some people were literally like, it was too late, like they were going to die from their cancer. Hunter had medication that had been supplied by Courtney tested. The results showed that the sample contained less than 1/3% of the drug prescribed. Upon relieving the test results, Hunter immediately cut ties with Courtney and notified the FBI. Investigators with the FBI and FDA initially did not believe that a pharmacist would do something so outrageous, because pharmacists have long been among the most trusted professionals in the country and in the world itself. They initially hoped there was an innocent explanation. However, when Hunter showed them the test results, they realized that she was telling the truth. Hunter submitted 7 additional samples for testing for the FDA's Forensic Chemistry Science Lab. Tests on those samples revealed that they only contained a fraction of the prescribed doses, as little as 15% and at the most 39%. They immediately knew they had to move quickly, as people's lives and citizens' lives and patients were at risk. While healthcare fraud cases normally take years to build, investigators knew this was a case of life or death, and because of public safety, investigators believed that Courtney took a base dosage of chemotherapy drugs and split them between 3 prescriptions, then sold them to oncologists for the same price as a full dose, even though it wasn't a full dose. He took advantage of the fact that doctors are usually concerned mainly with chemotherapy's effects on the body, not the amount of the dose. While he was supposed to be preparing infusions with $3,000 worth of chemotherapy drugs, the solutions he prepared were equivalent of only to $700, turning a significant profit for himself. Even with damning evidence that Courtney was dealing drugs, federal prosecutors asked the FBI and FDA to publish a chain of custody in order to get a probable cause for arrest. Prosecutors believed that since there were other pharmacists in the building, they needed to have direct evidence that Robert, Courtney himself, was the one actually making and diluting the drugs. With this in mind, investigators persuaded Hunter to help them again. In the sting operation, Robert mixed the drugs, made the infusion bags, and personally took them down to Hunter's office himself. Federal agents and them tested the FDA lab. The samples contained less than 30% of the prescribed doses, and in some cases contained 0% chemotherapy drugs at all of the solution, basically just saline water. The agents believed that giving patients infusions with no chemotherapy drugs was, the equivalent of giving them a bag of saline solution. And on August 13, 2001, federal agents raided Research Medical Tower Pharmacy. They told Courtney they were investigating a pharmacist and they needed to get information about who prepared the chemo infusions for Hunter's patients. Courtney acknowledged that he prepared them, thus unwillingly confessed to diluting the drugs himself. On August 15th, Courtney surrendered to authorities and was charged with 1 count of altering and misbranding drugs. The news of Courtney's arrest sent the Kansas City area into a public meltdown, a hurricane meltdown. The FBI urged anyone who ever received chemotherapy infusions to reach out to them and come forward with information. Faced with mounting evidence, Courtney gave investigators a list of 3 medications he diluted and a list of 34 affected patients. He claimed to have only started diluting the drugs a few months ago, a claim which nobody believed. He later openly admitted he did it to pay off a $1 million donation to the Northland Castro Building Fund. On August 23, 2001, Courtney was indicted on 20 counts of tampering with consumer products and adulterating and misbranding drugs. 3 patients survivors wanted him charged with murder. Unfortunately, federal investigators, the FBI and the FDA believed he was essentially a serial killer. Federal prosecutors believed the murder charge would be hard to prove since many of the patients were already at stage, late-term, cancer, and they were going to die. Additionally, science experts told the FBI that there was no way to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the diluted chemotherapy directly contributed to the patient's dying. Who knows if the chemotherapy would have worked if it was literally a full bag of chemotherapy and not diluted. Facing the prospect of life in prison if convicted of trial, on February 20th, 2002, Courtney pleaded guilty to 20 federal counts of tampering and adulterating chemotherapy drugs. He also acknowledged that he and his corporation, Courtney Pharmacy Inc., had weakened and watered down drugs, conspired to traffic and stolen drugs, and caused the filing of false Medicare claims. Prosecutors sought a plea deal because they believed it was the only way to get down to the bottom line of a scheme. According to law enforcement estimates, as well as his own confession, from 1992 to 2001, Courtney diluted 98,000 prescriptions from 400 doctors, which were given to 4,200 patients. Courtney admitted to diluting 72 different kinds of drugs besides chemotherapy treatments. He admitted to diluting medications for diabetes and AIDS patients, as well as fertility treatments for women. He subsequently admitted that he had been diluting drugs for his entire pharmaceutical career. As he put it, whatever I could dilute, I would dilute it. Over the course of his career, he earned a whopping $19 million, a figure that the FBI agent Melissa Osborne called blood money, and on December 5th, 2002, Courtney was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. This is healthcare under capitalism, the system. No lives matter. Profits over lives every day.